I've always been very adamant that the things that we have to hold on to are the things that are going to touch our customer. And how we're connecting with our customer.
I think it's so great. I love having friends that have entirely different lives than mine.
Yeah.
Because our conversations are so rich and funny and interesting.
And let's work together to support one another and whatever that looks like.
So many people take a no as a never, and most of the time a no is just a not now. And there's a huge difference there. And as someone who has to say no a lot, which I can imagine you do as well, I am always very clear that like I am saying no as a reflection of me, not a reflection of you or your offer.
This is the Gold Digger Podcast.
Okay, today's guest, you know her, you love her, you likely have pieces that she has designed. And if you're like me, you save the cute yellow boxes that everything comes in because they're too cute to toss. Kendra, I am so excited to talk to you. And I think that a lot of times people focus on the beautiful journey of building, this $1 billion business. But I want to start with asking you, what is one thing that people would not know from the outside looking in or from the headlines that they read about you?
Well, I think, when you think about, you're building, you're running this empire, this $1 billion business. I am just like all of us crazy mothers in the world who are trying to juggle 50 million things in a day, from school pickups to is it baseball tonight or this practice or what am I running to, while I'm trying to be in my office doing, all the things that we do. And I think I look at the business today from when I started it 22 years ago. And quite honestly, Jenna, I'm the same leader as I was in my startup phase as I am today. I'm super scrappy. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. I roll my sleeves up. I love working in the store. I love connecting with our customers. I feel like the way that I lead is the same, except that I just now have this army of amazing, beautiful humans that I get to work beside. And it's like, for me, I feel like it's day one every day. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's where some people probably go, oh, you're running, you've got all this. No, for me, it's like I never can be complacent. I have to wake up every day and think, how am I going to continue to be better as a leader as I was yesterday? What can I learn from the mistakes I made yesterday? And I'm constantly evolving and learning. And that doesn't change when your business is valued at $10 or $1 billion, right? For me, that doesn't change.
Well, I think you might be rare in that case. And one thing I'm always curious about, especially when you hit these huge milestones and valuations and things like that, is when you were starting out, did you ever imagine that you would be CEO of a company like this? Like when you are scrappy and bootstrapping and all of these things, like was that the vision, or has the vision evolved even as you've kind of stayed the same?
100% the vision has evolved. When I started this out of my extra bedroom 22 years ago, my mother brought over a card table, like one of those foldable card tables. I had a bead board, a little set of tools, a bulletin board with my few little boutique orders that I was filling. I was just trying to be able to have a business that allowed me to be present for my firstborn child. Mm-hmm. And he was with me. He went on every store visit. I mean, it really was. And I was almost afraid to tell people that I was starting this business, because I had a business prior to this that failed. It was a hat company. Okay. And so when I started, I was really quiet about it because I thought people will laugh at me because they're going to be like, oh, here she goes. She's trying to start something else. And so if anyone gets one thing out of this podcast right now, that first failure, that first thing we think we get so hard on ourselves, that is your bridge to the next thing in your life waiting for you. And that failed business taught me everything I needed to know to start a successful company later. And so I think back then it was just survival. And then as I started getting orders and I started to see excitement and people were selling out and all these things were happening, I started to realize, okay, well, maybe this is an actual business. And I started to think a little bigger. And then I'd get another success, or I'd get a showroom in New York wanted to rep my line. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have to get out of my bedroom. I need an office now. And, that was a big step. It was like, I'm going to rent space. I'm hiring people. That became like legit. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm a legitimate business. I had a sign on the door, the whole thing. And then, we got Nordstrom, and it's like you'd get these wins. And it was that started making other people believing in me, gave myself the belief in myself, and that courage and that confidence started coming back in me to say, why couldn't this be something bigger? And so in 2006, I'd been running the business for about 4 years, and I went to an entrepreneurial master's course because I'm a college dropout, Jenna.
I love.
And I wanted to learn more about entrepreneurship, about running the business day to day. And that really gave me all of this insight to be able to think bigger. And they had us do something called put out your big, hairy, audacious goal called a BHAG. Okay?
Yes.
Something that seems so unreal that you couldn't even, it seems like you're laughing almost writing it down.
Yeah.
And I wrote, I want to be $1 billion brand. And I want people to think of Kendra Scott as they just say it, they know the brand, it becomes a household name. That seemed ridiculous. And when you look back on it, I had to put that out in the universe, Jenna, so that I could start to build the roadmap to maybe make that happen. And when it has happened, now I'm like, what's the next BHAG? I gotta think bigger, right?
Are you doing that still? I mean, and I also,
yeah.
part of me, the sentimental part of me is like, I pray you still have that paper somewhere just to frame it and put it on a wall, because wouldn't that be amazing?
What we did though is we did like a kind of 3-year vision plan. And so it was my Super 7, my original team of girls and we were, I went to this class and they said, write down your 3-year plan and then write your BHAG. And we did all this together as a company. I mean, I say company, there was like 7 of us, okay? Yeah. But we did it together. And then we were all aligned and we could see this dream. And then we were like, let's just go for it. And so we wrote it on a big board and we had pictures and, we put all the things out there. And I think it really helped us, and we still do that as a company. I do it personally for myself, just even with our family. What are our goals in 3 years for our family? What does that look like? And it really is magical, because when you put it out, it is true. You start living in that person, that 3-year person.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, things start to actually happen that you're putting on that paper. It's pretty crazy how that works.
I love that you shared about how you didn't even want to tell people about what you were doing. And I want to go a little bit deeper on that, because there are so many people listening who have side hustles or have these dreams. And I was actually just talking to the girl who does my brows yesterday, and we were talking about how when we both started our careers, everyone treated it like a hobby, right? Like I was a wedding photographer, and we were talking about how you almost have to have death of your ego in those moments, because people can imagine either this full-blown, award-winning photography business, or they can picture a girl with a camera and no clue. And I don't think people talk about that enough, because we talk about things like imposter syndrome, but it's not imposter syndrome. You know your vision and you know your dream. It's understanding that you can let go of other people understanding that. Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone who's listening and they're like, I can't even say out loud what I want to do or what I'm doing because I worry about what people will think?
Well, first of all, that this is normal, okay? And we all go through this. And if anyone out there, I don't care whether it was Steve Jobs or, Bill Gates, you name it, we have all felt like this. That is a completely normal human reaction. What is the key to this is, one, you have to surround yourself with people that see your light. In my book, Born to Shine, I write about this a lot, because there will be moments in your life that your light inside kind of is dimming because you don't believe in it. You don't have that courage. You don't have the, but and you have to have these people that see it, that reignite it, that remind you, like, Kendra, you can do this. Yes. Don't be scared. Your jewelry is amazing. You need to sell this. I had to have those people that were my cheerleaders that saw something even when I didn't see it in myself. So that's one, is put those good, positive people, because the people I also had in my life were the naysayers, the ones that said, oh, there's a million jewelry lines out there, Kendra. What's going to make you special? Oh, that's cute that you're just making some jewelry and, selling it. And I really had to make a decision in my life. I have to, not that I want yes people and it has to be everybody telling me that I'm great or whatever, but I needed to have people around me that could lift me up and help me be able to do this, because you can't do it alone. You have to be able to have that support around you to help you with that. And then just as you start to see that confidence, like I said, when I saw stores order from me, it gave me that confidence, like, wow, they like it. So why am I being so hard on myself? Like, I've got to continue to grow. And I got so many no's, Jenna. So many stores turned me away. And in those moments, it gets really hard, right? Because you're like, ugh, well, and so I used every single one of those opportunities to learn. And I would sit in across from a boutique owner or whoever it would be. She'd be like, oh, this isn't really right for us right now. They tell you no in really like every way possible.
Yes.
And I'd say, okay, well, what did you not see today that you would have liked to see? Is there anything that I could have done differently? Oh, I love that advice. Let me write this down. I really appreciate your feedback because I really admire what you've built here in your business, and I'd love to learn from you. And on top of that, I'm going to come back. I took all these notes, and I can't wait to see you next season. I've already made an appointment now to come back and see her again. And that no is, I always say this, is on in a mirror. It means we are just getting the conversation started. And so for all of those people out there that have doubt, don't let the no be the final thing for you. Leave a window open, because I promise you, if you do that, that will turn into a yes, or another yes down the road will happen, because they're going to be like, wow, this person it's not typical. Most people just run away when they hear no. They hide. I want you to face no right in the face and go back out with a smile. Like my father always told me, Kendra, kill them with kindness. And go back and be like, thank you for telling me no. What? They're like, what? Thank you for giving me this, because if I need to learn, I want to get better. I want to be able to do something that I'm doing, do it better than I was today.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I totally agree too. I think so many people take a no as a never, and most of the time a no is just a not now. And there's a huge difference there. And as someone who has to say no a lot, which I can imagine you do as well, I am always very clear that like I am saying no as a reflection of me, not a reflection of you or your offer. And it is interesting, because I think whatever we're looking for, whether it's people's belief, we'll find it, or people's disapproval, we'll also find it. Whatever you're looking for, you will find, especially in entrepreneurship. And so I love that piece of your story. One thing I have been dying to ask you is bigger always better? And have there been times in growing this empire, which it is, that you have like wanted to go back down small? Because I have so many incredibly successful friends who have expanded in offices and teams and all these things. And it's kind of like the mo money, mo problems type analogy. What has that looked like for you?
I think I don't disagree. I think there's a lot of times when I think this is so complicated. And I think the hardest part for me is I am such a people, like I want to meet and know every single person in my business. And I can't do that anymore. I can't get to 138 stores, and meet every employee that we're hiring. And, that part of it is, I think, harder for me. So, trying to figure out how do I do that? So we do moments with Mama Kay where I'm, reaching out to my field teams, and we get to have these fun conversations and things like that. But at the same time, it's not me getting to actually give them a hug and see them. And so that part, I think, is probably the most difficult. I wish I could clone myself so I could be in all these different places, or beam me up Scotty, like they did in Star Trek. But I think that part is really hard. And I also think as you become more successful, what I have found is that you have to start to understand, are people wanting to be friendly with you, or want to be with you, be near you because they really like you genuinely, or do they have something that they want? And unfortunately, I've had to get hurt by that to see that there have been relationships and things that have happened where I was, they wanted a donation, a big donation, or they wanted money for a business, or they wanted a loan, or they wanted something. And you start to kind of get more jaded, and I've kept my circle smaller because of that. I have a group of girlfriends that I've had for 25 years. My best friend, I was broke, and we were like 21 years old or something, and we shared a 1-bedroom studio apartment, and she helped me during one of the most difficult times of my life. And those are the friends. It's like they loved me when I was poor, and they really love me now. I mean, we all have fun. We go on better vacations, but it's still, nothing has changed, right? Like, we are still there for each other. And so I think as that happens, when success happens to people, you do start to narrow kind of your ability to be around as many people as you would have been otherwise. And you just kind of start questioning things. And that's an icky feeling. And I wish that wasn't the case.
I can very much relate, and in a different scale, of course, but my best friends are my college roommates and my friends who were there when I was starting a little WordPress blog. And it is hard to connect. And I think this opens us up to a beautiful opportunity of a personal question that I want to ask is just how, when you were in the thick, you're raising babies, you have six children,
Three
that have
three of my own that I birthed. And then
yes,
three
but
are my bonus.
Six, yes.
Six, yes.
And you've raised these kids and done all these things, and basically your motherhood journey and your business were kind of born around the same time.
Yes.
How did you connect with other moms while you're building this empire? Because I feel like that can be a really huge disconnect for women who are choosing to work or forced to work versus women who are choosing to stay home or able to stay home. And that can be a little bit of a disconnect. How did you connect with other moms?
I think it was hard, Jenna, because in Austin, where my kids were at, a lot of the moms weren't working moms, and I totally respect that so much. I just didn't have that ability. I was, building a business. I ended up getting divorced when my two older boys were 3 and 1.
Yeah.
So I became a single mom with babies, basically. In the very early stages of my business. The business was not making money at the time. My sister had to move in with me to help me pay my rent and to help me with the boys. And I just remember every day was just like this struggle of like, okay, I drop them off and then I have to work all these. The thoughts of going to lunch or doing anything other than just trying to get my work done, picking them up, and then little things would happen. Like I'd forget it was a bake sale, or I wouldn't, like your mind
Costume
is
day.
all these things. Yeah, or whatever.
Right.
And what I ended up happening is I found a few amazing moms and became vulnerable with them. And they loved to help, and they wanted to help, and they were like, I can help you with this. And our kids became buddies. So it was like moms where, our kids were hanging out together and they loved to play together. And so I got this little village of a few awesome moms. And together we just had each other's back. And some of them worked, some of them didn't. And we were very open with each other. We would talk, and they would like the bake sales, a cute one. My friend Jill, she started to realize like I would have to be in New York and I would be, doing all this stuff and then flying home, and I would try to get so many meetings in so that I could get home with the kids.
Right.
And she just started making an extra dozen cookies for me because she's like, Kendra, I knew you weren't going to have time. So like, I just did it for you. I mean, like things like that. I'm like, God bless good friends.
Yes.
So I think that's just a lesson is, I said this in Born to Shine is there's no such thing as Superwoman. Those are fictional characters. Okay. And we have to give each other a break. And as women and as mothers, understanding that all of our lives look differently. Not one is easier than another. We don't know what anybody else is going through. And so the best thing that we can do is be kind, be loving, give people the benefit of the doubt, and be there to support each other, because women holding hands and working together, we are unstoppable. And I think for me, if there's one message out there, I think, us working moms, but we've got a lot of other moms out there we're all just moms.
Yes.
And let's work together to support one another, and whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful. I love that. And I think it's so great. I love having friends that have entirely different lives than mine because our conversations are so rich and funny and interesting. And like, I am still learning the mom side of things of like these themed days and, oh my gosh, they got to bring a sharing item and all these things. And so one of my mom friends is very on top of those things. And I was like, can you just send out a text for all of us that don't read our emails every day? Like, it is beautiful to find women that can balance. Yes. And I think in today's society, especially for people that are entrepreneurs and, driven and ambitious, you have to really prioritize and make that effort to connect with other women. It doesn't just happen. It takes effort. And I think a lot of us hear that and we're like, there is no gas in the tank for anything like that. But I can tell you, like, it is so life-giving to be around other people who are in such a similar stage, especially when you're raising littles and doing that. One thing I want to ask you, so we kind of know the beginning origin, the card table, the few designs. What does a day in your life look like now? Like, I feel like it must be vastly different. Paint that picture.
It is. This is the thing that's so funny, Jenna, is that every day is so different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting that it is so different, but every day is so different. But, you know, I always start my day with the kids, getting them off to school in the morning and, you know, getting everybody like out the door successfully. I already feel like I've accomplished something by, you know, 7:15 in the morning. I'm like, yes, we did this.
Yes.
And then for me, it's like, I like to kind of ease into my mornings by like going through emails. You know, if I'm working on a new concept or new idea, I'm kind of writing things out. I use that morning time, like with my coffee, to kind of get my mind situated. And then depending on the day, my team knows that around 10 a.m. is when I'll start to do meetings, or I'll do podcasts, or, you know, whatever it might be.
Yep.
And then I'm doing touch bases at different days of the week with different team members. So I might be meeting with my CMO on a certain day. I might be meeting with my design team. Usually I'm working with our design team at least 2 or 3 times a week. So I still lead all the design for Kendra Scott. And that's, for me, my joyous, most happy time is spent in our design lab. Like, I love my days in the design lab. But there's a lot of different things. Anything that the customer touches, sees, smells, whatever, wears, I'm looking at it and making sure it's perfect and amazing, and then it's going to surprise and delight her and wow her. And so I'm very engaged in the customer experience. And then at least one day a week, I try to get into one of our retail stores. And I love to sell. I'm on the sales floor. I love learning from our customers. I want to see what she's buying. I want to, you know, find out what's going on in their lives. I think the best way for me to do that is to really be on the floor working with our teams directly. I want to see if there's things in our processes that are holding up my staff and how they're running the business there. So I try to get on the floor at least once a week. And you know, and then I'm traveling too. So I'm in New York. We have a showroom there. I'm in LA quite a bit. So it's just that balance, right, of all the different things. And then I do a lot of speaking. So there's certain weeks where I will be on the road, you know, doing certain conferences and things like that. But I try to, you know, I never stay more than 3 nights away from my family. That's our rule.
Yep.
And, you know, I am very strict about certain things like that. And what's great is you know, we've built a business that supports parents, that supports mothers and fathers. And I want my Kendra Scott family to be there for their family first. And so they know that that's my priority as well. And so when you build a business like that and that becomes the norm, it doesn't become the thing that's odd. It actually is the norm of our culture here at Kendra Scott. Everyone works around that to make sure those things happen. And that gives us that, you know, the word that I hate to use, the balance, I guess, that you need. But for me, if I'm not there with my family the way I need to be there, I will not be as good of a leader to my Kendra Scott family. I need to be able to balance those two things.
I think one of the most powerful traits in a leader is whatever they want for themselves, they want for their team. And I have seen so many companies where the leader wants these special treatments or things or time or whatever it is for themselves, and it's not preserved for a part of the culture. And I just think that the most powerful, happy, energized teams are the ones that are reaping the benefits, the same benefits as the founder. And I think that's super powerful. One thing I want to know is oftentimes when you're in a state of scaling and you're hiring and you start to outsource, sometimes you can outsource the things you love the most and it pulls you away from your work or that heartbeat. And you talked about how you love design. Has there ever been times in the business where you've maybe outsourced too much and you kind of lose that connection where you have to pull it back in, or have you always maintained that preservation of your passions?
I think where I've always been very adamant that the things that we have to hold on to are the things that are going to touch our customer and how we're connecting with our customer. I will not outsource design.
Yeah.
We have our design lab here. We create all of the molds here in Austin, Texas. We have manufacturing all over, obviously, because we're just, having lots of things, but we do all the design here. That was important to me.
Yeah.
Our marketing and how the customer is seeing the brand, the creative side of the business, I've always felt like that's what we're really good at. That's our wheelhouse. So we want to keep that in-house. The areas where I outsourced that I think have been helpful is like, look, we're not a tech company, right? So there's we have a big IT team, but we can outsource a lot of these other things that we don't need to necessarily build a mini Google inside of Kendra Scott, right? Those things make sense with the right leadership within our organization, protecting the brand. I think, one thing that's so important for anyone listening is really understanding your core values. And my core values are the company's core values, which is family. I'm a mother first, and I wanted to create a company that we treated each other and our customers like family. Fashion, because this was my passion. This is my love. I love to design products that make people feel good, that bring smiles to their faces. And then 3, I wanted to create a brand that was fashion for philanthropy, that we could be a successful company, but make a positive impact on women and youth in this country. And we do that every day. And so we hire people that share those core values. And that's what's kept our culture alive. So having our HR and really being on top of who we bring in our leadership roles, our managers for our stores, all of those things, we could never outsource because no one will understand our core values like us, no matter who we would have out there. So I think when you're thinking about outsourcing, even in the early days, like accounting, finance,
right?
I mean, they still lock Excel spreadsheets, Jenna, because I'll mess them up.
I
Okay,
love it. Yeah.
So
Like,
that's
don't
not my
let you
strong
in.
suit. Right? No, they don't let me in. And I'm like, laugh. I'm like, you shouldn't let me in because I'll push a box and I'll ruin it all, So there are certain things I was like, I need to outsource that because if I'm doing it, I'm going to mess this up. And you have to know your strengths and you have to know your weaknesses. And I think your weaknesses are great areas to outsource as long as you have someone in your organization that is still strong in that area that can manage and oversee that outsourced person, right? So that's kind of the key. And I think as you're building your business, really writing those things down. What am I great? What are we great at? What am I good at? Being very honest and vulnerable on what you suck at. Okay. And for me, I was like, this is the things I've got to hire people that are great at those things, or I'm going to need to outsource some of those things to organizations or groups. But still, those organizations and groups have to align with my core values. So any vendor we use, any manufacturer we use, they all have to align with us on the heart piece, not just the qualifications piece.
I think that's so powerful. And I think a lot of people kind of skip that piece of starting a business, like the mission statement, the vision, the values. And I think that's how so many people, wake up 3 years down the line, 5 years, 10 years, and they're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be, or like, this is not what I want. That brings me to my next question. And I'm curious now, how do you define success for yourself? Like, how do you know when you're being successful?
For me, I can tell, and I think this is such for every single person, it's different. Okay. I think sometimes we think success is being able to have money and financial security, and right. That's what we've all kind of been trained in our brains that's success. I do like being able to know that I can, pay my rent now and I don't have to worry about my sister having to move in with me. And those things are nice, right? Having financial security is great. That's one small portion of success for me. That's a portion of what it looks like for me to feel successful. I want my family healthy and happy. They always say this, a mother is only as happy as her most unhappy child. So if I can make sure that every single one of my children, my husband, the people in my family are good and happy and they're getting what they need, that is success for me. I need to be able to have time. Time is critically important. We have a very short time on this earth. And while we are here, we have to make it count. And when I say make it count, that doesn't mean you need to go out and build $1 billion brand.
Right.
Making it count means that you're doing something that brings you joy and happiness. I love my job. I love this company. I love designing. I love our customers. I am excited every day to come to work. I love being a mom. I mean, more than anything in the world. And I have to have that time in my life to spend with them, to go on vacations with them, to snuggle up with them, to have movie nights, to be able to pick them up from school. I need that in my life to be able to feel successful for me. And then the big part, I've always just felt like I lost my stepfather to brain cancer, and I've always had this thing in my heart that I wanted to do something good for the world. And I think when I see that we're making an impact on people in a positive way, and we've donated, and this is a number, but it's a big one, it's $65 million since 2010 to women and children's charities. I know we're doing good stuff, and that brings me immense joy, and that's how I feel successful. I look more at what we're able to do from a give back standpoint than a top line revenue, or I really do, because that's my fuel. That's why I keep coming and wanting to build this business bigger, is because the bigger the business has gotten, the more good we've been able to do in the world. And that's my purpose. So you have to know your purpose. You have to know what things matter to you. And when you're thinking about your core values, think about what matters to me. What are the things in my life that I absolutely are so important to me to be fulfilled and happy? And those things, I promise you, other people will have similar core values to you.
You just brought up such a beautiful point that I want to dive into a little bit deeper. Is I think that a lot of women start the pursuit of money because, again, that's kind of what we've been conditioned to do. And I'm speaking from experience for myself. There have been so many times where I've hit financial milestones and felt nothing, or empty, or not how I expected it to feel. And I think that something super powerful that you just spoke about is tying it to something deeper than you, and to use your money in a way to support other things. If somebody's listening to this and they don't have a give back component to their business, or they don't have an area where they're super passionate about or donating, or they haven't considered that, or maybe they don't even feel successful enough yet to be doing that, talk to me about how that works and how you guys landed on where you landed and what you're supporting. Because I think this can change the game, especially for female entrepreneurs, where it pulls you out of the equation, because I think most women are selfless in a lot of ways, and it ties you and anchors you to a really much deeper why that can help fuel you and your results.
100%. I mean, for me, my first business I started because my stepfather had gone through brain cancer treatment, and I had spent a lot of time around women and men who were undergoing chemotherapy. And I wanted to create headwear options that were more comfortable and still fashionable and all those things. And so, from that, and I was 19 when I started that first business, my stepfather would tell me, use the gifts that you were given to do something good. And that, and reminded me that your life here is just fleeting. And so for me, I got so much joy out of seeing that I would create something and I would put it and give it to a woman who had experiencing hair loss and going through this really difficult time in her life, and see her light up and see her smile. And that was like, oh my gosh, this is why, like, if I can do fashion and design, which I love, and I can give this like happiness to someone, this was like, I mean, there's nothing better in the world for me, right? It was amazing. And so when I started Kendra Scott, after the hat company failed, I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this again? And I thought, well, what can I do today? What I can do is I can volunteer sometime, not a lot of time because I didn't have a lot, but I could volunteer sometime. And I could make a pair of earrings for a silent auction. I could make a necklace for a raffle for a charity. And I decided if a nonprofit would call me, that I would never say no, that I could figure out something I could give. And I wasn't able to write big checks. I wasn't able to do, anything beyond that. And each day, as the business got a little bigger, I was able to do a little more. And when we started opening our first retail store, which was in 2010, I decided, this would be so cool if I could have Kendra Gives Back events where charities that I have been gifting to all these years for nonprofits could come in and have another way to support their business. And this would be great because it would be a profit sharing. I would give them percentage of the sales that night. So it was a way that I was able to help them, but also, it was like, it worked for everybody, right? And so that started. And then it was like one thing. Then we started Kendra Cares in a pediatric hospital where I brought my color bar and we gifted patients a piece of jewelry and they got to design them with us. And then they would give it to their favorite nurse or their mom sitting by their bedside. That was one hospital. Now we have 42 hospitals that we are in every month across the country. So my message is that you don't have to make it this big thing. Don't check a philanthropy box just to check it. I wanted to do something where I could really help somebody in the way that I was able. So whatever it is you're able to do that is not hurting you or hurting your business, try to do it and implement it. As we started to grow, we started to realize we really wanted to focus more on women and children. That was our demographic, me as a mother, all of these things as a female entrepreneur who had struggled to get funding. I really wanted to start to hone in on exactly what we wanted to focus on, and it was women and youth. And so now the Kendra Scott Foundation, which we just recently launched, is really focused on that. But again, we still don't turn people away. If Boy Scouts of America need something, you know what, I'm going to help them out. But we still are very much now focused, and we have all these amazing programs. So never in a million years out of that little extra bedroom when I was making a pair of earrings for an auction did I think that I could tell you that we've given $65 million now to women and youth. But you can do that. If I can do this, anyone can do this. Start where you can, grow from there, make it part of the DNA of your brand. And I promise you, you're going to have people that want to work even more for you because they want to be, everyone wants to be something bigger than just making money. That is just empty. Money is not the resolve for happiness, folks. It's not. And when you are able to take that and give some of that back in a way that you then see, wow, what I have done has really helping someone else, that is amazing feeling. And that is what we should all try to strive for.
Yes. Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think too, it's natural for so many of us to say like, I'll start giving when, and it's like that finish line keeps getting pushed further and further away. And I always remember somebody saying like, if you can't give $10 out of 100, you're not going to be able to give 10,000 out of 100,000. Like when you start growing that habit now, wherever you're at, it just becomes a part of your values and your system, which I love.
It does. And I think the other thing is, we have an army of amazing people that work at Kendra Scott that philanthropy is such a big part of what's important to them is giving back. And we also have this opportunity for team building. Like we'll go and we do different runs together. We'll do different, at Christmas, we're all here wrapping presents to help families and we're like having all of these bonding moments. So I think when you're thinking about building your company, think about how that will unite the people on your team in such a special way and that you're getting to experiencing things together. When we see our employees at Kendra Cares events in these pediatric hospitals, they are all fighting to volunteer their time to go do this. And their job becomes so much more fulfilled because they're getting to do something that they wouldn't even be able to dream that they would be able to do in their job life, but it's just part of who we are as a brand. So I just think there's so many positives to this. And like you said, there's no time better than today to start. No matter how small it is, it matters. It matters.
It does. One thing I did that I want to do again is I set aside a certain amount of money and told my team to tell me about causes they care about. And if you really want to get to know the people that you work with, look at where they want money to go. I think that speaks so deeply about what their values are and what they care about. And it was beautiful to see the different types of organizations that members of my team wanted to support, believe in the work of. And there's so many amazing nonprofits out there who are desperate for support. So it was a cool exercise. Like if you really want to see what people care about, see where they want money to go. And it's a powerful way to have conversations.
We have 138 stores and I have philanthropic managers, area managers in regions. And they're the ones, because they understand their community. I can't be here in Austin, Texas and know what does, this city need or that city need. But the people that live there and work there, that work with Kendra Scott, they know, right? And they're out in the community going, where's the greatest need? How can we support them? And like you said, Jenna, it's so many times the small nonprofits that are doing the most work but getting the least amount of support.
Yeah.
So that's why we really love having that grassroots of really going into each community. And like you said, seeing that, the Kendra Scott, my employees come back and are like, this is amazing, we want to support this. I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. It's really exciting.
Okay, I want to shift gears and ask you one final question that I've been dying to know is, have you ever regretted having the company named after you? I think we have so many debates, should you start a personal brand? Should you, start a business that has nothing to do with you? Walk me through that, because you are Kendra Scott and you are Kendra Scott.
Yes. Okay, so Jenna, the reason the company is named Kendra Scott is because if you remember earlier in our conversation, I said I didn't want to tell anybody I was starting a business.
Yes.
So I had just printed business cards that I made on WordPerfect.
Yep.
Okay, hi, I'm dating myself. And it said Kendra Scott, because that's my name, jewelry designer. Okay, I didn't name the company. It was just my name,
Yep.
jewelry designer. And that's how I started selling my jewelry. I didn't come up with like jazzy jewels or,
Yes.
I didn't think of it as a company.
Yep.
I was just a person in a bedroom making jewelry and trying to sell it.
Yep.
Until I started to get more orders, and I'm like, okay, so then I named it Kendra Scott Design. Okay, so we were Kendra Scott Design LLC.
Great.
Because I thought the design made it sound a little more official, you
Yeah.
know? As we've grown the company, we dropped the design. It's just Kendra Scott. But it wasn't this thought process of like, I'm going to name the company, blah, blah, blah. I literally just started, and it was my name. And I ended up just, people started to know, oh, I'm buying Kendra Scott, I'm buying this. And I was like, okay, well, at this point, I think it's just Kendra Scott. So we just went Kendra Scott Design. So I think with people out there, for me, I take it as a very big responsibility, quite honestly, because there are so many brands that the name is not a person.
Yep.
Liz Claiborne, Ted Baker, Ann Taylor, no, not really real people. So
Yep.
some people don't know, like that still are learning about Kendra Scott.
Yeah.
They think it's just a brand.
Yeah.
But I really am a person.
Yeah.
I'm a real human. But I take it very seriously, and I really want to be the best, brightest light for this brand that I can be, and to be a positive force personally as a person, because it is a reflection on the brand. It is weird sometimes for me because, people you become like this thing that people have in their brain, right? And there is the brand,
Yep.
and there is the person,
Yes.
and they're two different things, but there's a lot of gray area in between.
Yeah.
But I say this to my team all the time. I'm very honored, and I feel like the lucky one to have my name on this beautiful brand. But the DNA of this brand are all my amazing people that I get to work beside every day that have given so much over the last 22 years to build this company.
Yeah.
And so it is a true honor, and I take it very seriously.
I love that. Kendra, you are a treasure. I love what you create. Now I'm like ready to go look at all the new releases. Where can everybody find you, learn more about Kendra Scott, get your book? Give me all the places.
Yes, so you can find me for the book anywhere that books are sold. And the exciting thing is my book's coming out in paperback in April 16th, in mid-April. So that's going to be super exciting. We're even going to have a chapter that is not in the book, but you can download it if you pre-order, that I wrote called Cowboy Take Me Away, about me falling in love after going through divorce and all of those things. And it's super cute. And then at Kendra Scott, of course, on Instagram, Twitter, all the social channels. And then at Official Kendra Scott is my personal page where you can see the real Kendra, the human Kendra, and then at Kendra Scott's the company. But again, both the thing, but Official Kendra Scott, you'll see a lot of animals, Highland cows, alpacas, horses, and a lot of just, me and my crazy family.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was everything I wanted it to be and so much more. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jenna. I loved this. I could talk to you all day. What a wonderful time today. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Gold Digger Podcast. I'm so happy you're here. And to make sure you don't miss any future episodes, make sure you're subscribed to the show. And if you loved today's episode, which I hope you did, check out this one next. I think you're going to love this video too. So I was recently at a mastermind and we were on the closing day sharing our closing thoughts. And my friend Jim Quick was sitting right next to me and he said something so poignant. The topic was comfort zones. And essentially what he said is that there are two types of hard that nearly everyone is experiencing. The hardness that comes when you're stuck inside of your comfort zone, but also the hard that comes when you're trying to break away from it.